Hey, welcome to another edition of Safe Bets. This is your boy D, and I'm gonna go over a plan to help you maximize and strategize your money to the best of my ability. Hey, we're coming off week 14, pretty good week. Went 12-4 on that week. Going down to the end of the year, so this is week 15. Got a couple more games for the regular season. Then we're gonna do that postseason for you guys. So, like I say, last week was a pretty good week. We started off pretty slow, but it ended up 12-4. Could have easily went, I thought 15-1. There's a couple of games I didn't see it at first, but that's still good. 12-4 out of 16 games. That's pretty good, I think, for the season. So let's start first up a Thursday night game. We got the LA Chargers at Vegas. Looks like we got Vegas -3. Vegas has been trending kind of down lately, man. I don't know what's going on. They haven't established their run game, and the Chargers look like they're playing pretty good ball. Well, last week they played okay. They came back and won that game versus Atlanta, but I think I'm going to take with Vegas at home for the sweep against the Chargers. They beat them once early in the year, and I think I'm going to go ahead and take that Vegas in at -3. And then we got a couple of Saturday games, which is we got Buffalo at Denver. So it looks like we got Buffalo -6, some -6.5. It's going to be a pretty good game out in the cold. I think Buffalo's kind of used to the cold, so at -6.5, I think that's going to be good. Josh Allen, they've been playing pretty good ball, you know, and Drew Luck, he's turnover prone. He's kind of like a young Josh Allen. He's not accurate, and he's just turnover prone. So I'm going to ride with that 6.5 and the Bills with that one. And then a late night Saturday game, we got Carolina at Green Bay. Looks like we got Green Bay -8.5. Some got it -9. I like Aaron Rodgers, even though they didn't cover last week versus Detroit. It was probably easily one play from covering, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be too much for that young Carolina defense. But the Carolina, I think they'll be pretty good next year, but this year is not their year. They're kind of trending downwards too. But I like that Green Bay -8.5 for Aaron Rodgers at the house. And besides that, it's cold. Even with no fans in the stands, it's still Lambeau. And there's something about that field. But yeah, we're going to take that Green Bay -8.5. First Sunday game we got is Houston at Indianapolis. We got Indianapolis -7. Houston dismal game last week, versus the Bears. It was just horrible outing. They couldn't get nothing established. The run game, they couldn't get anything established. And Indianapolis, I thought, put on a pretty good show at Vegas last week. They went down there and took care of business, and I think they're going to continue rolling that ball because they're in a fight with Tennessee Titans for the conference title. So I'm going to take Indianapolis. I think they take care of business. Phillip Rivers plays some pretty good ball. Their defense is pretty stout. And I think Houston just don't have enough to compete with Indianapolis. So I'm going to take that -7 in Indy at the house. Next game, we got Detroit at Tennessee. Looks like we got Tennessee -10.5. There's been reports that Matt Stafford might not play, so Detroit might be having a backup. But either way, I'm going to take that Tennessee -10.5 at the house. I think Tennessee, coming off that tough loss a couple of weeks ago, and then last week they found their groove back in Jacksonville. I think they found their identity and they're back on track because they did the same thing last year. They was off a few games, but like at the end of the year, it's like they started to build the momentum up. And besides that, they compete with Indianapolis for that division title. So yeah, I think Tennessee takes care of business and ultimately beats Detroit. So the next game we have is Tampa Bay at Atlanta. We got Tampa Bay -6. Atlanta is at the house. Tampa Bay played a pretty sloppy game last week, but they got the job done over Minnesota. They could have easily lost their game if Dan Bailey could have made a few of those field goals, but They covered. You know, we took them last week. We won with that. And Atlanta at the house. Julio Jones is not playing. Atlanta's just reeling right now. They're reeling in the wrong direction. It's like they can't finish games. But at the same time, Tampa Bay is kind of sloppy. So with that being said, I think I'm going to take that +6 in Atlanta at home. I think Atlanta keeps it close. Just it's something about the dome atmosphere. So I'm going to take Atlanta at home with that +6. And the next game we got is New England at Miami. Looks like we got Miami -2. Some showing -2.5. Miami played a pretty good game against Kansas City last week, and New England just got obliterated by the Rams. But it goes back to my theory, Belichick versus rookie quarterbacks. And I believe that Belichick is going to come up with a plan. I don't know how he does it, but he comes up with specific plans against rookie quarterbacks, and he exploits their weaknesses. And besides that, Miami has a few guys, top guys that are banged up that are unexpected to play this weekend. So with that being said, I'm going to take the New England plus the 2 or 2.5, whatever you can get. That's going to probably be an upset game money pick right there for this week. The next game we got is Seattle at Washington. Most lines are showing Seattle -5.5. I got one -6. That Washington front seven is, like I say, man, it is a beast. And they may give Russell Wilson problems. But the only thing I have with Washington is they can't score. So if the Seahawks and Russell Wilson get out to a big lead, or they're going to be able to compete with that scoring. And I don't think Washington has that. Nor their secondary is not, it's average, but it's not superior like their front seven is. So with that being said, I'm going to take that Seattle -5.5 or 6, whatever it is. I think Seattle wins by at least a touchdown. And besides that, I think Seattle's defense is starting to come around at the end of the season. They're starting to gel a little bit. Next game we got is Chicago at Minnesota. Minnesota -3. Minnesota, pretty good fight last week versus Tampa Bay. That the kicker just couldn't get it. He was just off like the whole game. I couldn't believe it because Dan Bailey used to be one of the top kickers in the NFL. Now it's just like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's injured or what's going on. And Chicago put on a stellar show last week versus Houston. So I think the defense will hold up for Chicago right here. And I'm going to take that +3 in Chicago at Minnesota. I think by them having Trubisky back in the lineup, it's going to give him a sense of urgency, so to speak. So we're going to take that Chicago +3. Next game we got is Jacksonville at Baltimore. It's showing Baltimore -13, 13.5, 14. Jacksonville is going to have Gardner Minshew back. Baltimore, they found their groove in that Cleveland game, but I think they might have took a lot out of Baltimore because that was a pretty physical game. A lot of few of Baltimore's players got hurt defensively. So with that being said, I think I'm going to take that Jacksonville +13.5 versus Baltimore. Even though I think Baltimore runs it, but Jacksonville, I think they'll keep it close, at least within that 13, that 2 touchdown range. So we're going to take Jacksonville +13.5. Next, let's see what we got here. We got San Francisco at Dallas. San Francisco -3. San Francisco, I think they're trending backwards. Injuries, they're just decimated with injuries. And Dallas, I watched that game last week with Dallas, and I don't know what it was, but it seemed like they had like a little spark in them. Like they finally clicking and gelling together, like they found their identity and who they were when they played Cincinnati. and I think that trend is going to continue for this week. So with that being said, I'm going to take the Dallas in +3 at home because I think they take care of San Francisco, and I'm not fond of backup quarterbacks winning against just teams in general, unless you just play the whole season then. But other than that, I'm not too fond of that. So the next game we have is the Jets at the LA Rams. We got the Rams -17.5. The Jets are just dismal. I mean, I don't know what's going on over there, but I don't know if they're just purposely doing things, but I can't chance it, and I wouldn't want anyone to chance betting anything on the Jets this year because, like I say, I think they're fighting for their first pick for next year's draft. So with that being said, we're going to take the LA Rams -17.5 at the house. So the next game we got is Philadelphia at Arizona. It's showing Arizona -6.5. Philly put on a pretty good show last week. Jalen Hurts came in, and I actually called that. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Philly beat the Saints straight up, and that's what happened. So with that being said, I'm going to roll with Philly. I like what they're doing with Jalen Hurts over there, and him and Kyler Murray are kind of similar. So we're going to take that 6.5 and the Eagles. And so what we got here. The next game we have Kansas City at New Orleans. You got Kansas City -3. Reports are saying Drew Brees he's off injured reserve, but we don't know if he's going to play or not. But I do know this. That Superdome, it's like some voodoo or something going on in there. I don't know what they're practicing or anything, but Kansas City, if you really watch football, Kansas City defense has been trending downwards in the second half. First half they played pretty good, but the second half is kind of dismal. And I like Sean Payton to bounce back in this game, and both of these guys are fighting for the #1 spot in the AFC and the NFC. So I'm going to take that New Orleans +3 in the dome, in the Voodoo Dome, so to speak. And the Sunday night game, we have Cleveland at the Giants. So we got Cleveland -4.5. That Cleveland game, I think it brought a lot out of Cleveland versus Baltimore. It was a real physical game. And they're playing the Giants. The Giants, they had a pretty rough game versus Arizona last weekend. They couldn't get it going. I'm not quite sure if Daniel Jones was 100% or not. But I think Cleveland ultimately gets the job done right here. I can't see it because, like I say, I don't believe Daniel Jones is hurt, but I'm going to monitor that. But I'm going to take that Cleveland and then -4.5 on that game for that reason. For Daniel Jones, he's not 100%, so can't trust a quarterback that's not 100%. And the last game of the Week 15 is going to be Monday night, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Pittsburgh -12.5, showing some -13. Both of these teams lost last weekend. Cincinnati lost way worse than Pittsburgh. But I think Mike Tomlinson and Pittsburgh bounce back and make a statement game on this one right here to let these guys know, hey, we're still in this and we haven't went nowhere. So that -12.5, 13, I think it's going to be a blowout. I don't even think it's going to be close. Pittsburgh should put this game away in the first half because Cincinnati's they're just decimated. The quarterback position is the worst for Cincinnati. They need some help. They're missing Joe Burrow. So that's gonna wrap up picks for Week 15. Make sure you hit that subscribe and that like button, and I'll see you guys next week.